Thomas Babington Macaulay, British statesman, historian, poet and novelist of the Victorian era. Only the mint can make money without advertising. The causes of the quarrel multiply before our eyes. Politeness is kindness in small things. If slaves wait for freedom until they are wiser, they will have to wait a long time. Analysis is not the poet's business. His vocation is to reproduce, not dismember. There is no power more destructive than the ability to present people in a funny way. A big mind, like a big mountain, is the first to catch and reflect the morning sun. As for everyone at all, it doesn't concern anybody. Probably no man can be a poet, can't even love poetry, if he is, at least to a small extent, not mentally ill. Some books should only be tasted, others should be swallowed, and only a few should be chewed and digested. We remember the old golden days well, because there were so few of them. Even the law of universal gravitation will be challenged if a material interest arises. The best way to solve a problem is when people are free to discuss it. The slightest good in the present is better than the most luxurious promises in the future. A tiny act of kindness is better than the most solemn promises to do the impossible. Most of all, the public exalts someone who is at the same time the object of admiration, respect, and compassion. Words, more words, and only words, these are all that the most famous philosophers have left us. Someone who is well aware of the past will never despair about the present. A philosophy that fights greed is far better than a philosophy that drafts laws to protect property. People's hearts are their books, events are their mentors, great actions their eloquence. In modern times, many politicians tend to argue with aplomb that the people do not deserve freedom until they learn to use it. This inference would do honor to the fool from an old fairy tale who decided not to go into the water until he learned to swim. Cunning people despise teaching, simple people worship it, wise people use it. A good government is not one that wants to make people happy, but one that knows how to achieve it. Reward and punishment are subject to everything in this world. Everything but the heart. Laws exist in vain for those who lack the courage and means to defend them. Poetry requires not a tester, but a believing way of thinking. Rulers should not accuse people of a lack of patriotism, but do everything in their power to make them patriots. It is futile to hope that a constitution can be written in which any elected person receives a majority of votes and any law receives unanimous support. A person's real character is what they would do if they knew they would never get caught. In any era, the most malicious representatives of the human race should be sought among the people's leaders. Our assessment of someone depends largely on how that person relates to our interests and passions. Knowledge is achieved not by running fast, but by slow walking. The purpose of a mirror is not to draw on it. There is no power more destructive than the ability to present people in a funny way. Violence is the essence of war. Ancient philosophy was a mill, not an expensive one. It consisted of questions that revolved in a circle, of contradictions that always began anew. There was a lot of tension in it, and there was no progress at all. Smart always looked at with great suspicion both the angels and the demons of the crowd. A big mind, like a big mountain, is the first to catch and reflect the morning sun. The purpose of oratory is not truth, but persuasion. The law exists in vain for those who have neither the courage nor the means to defend it. The first fruits harvested by a bad host are often planted by a good host. Every tyrant is so interested in the fact that only he himself can plunder his people. The means by which this goal is achieved are so clear and simple that people may live better under the most brutal tyranny than under anarchy. I'd rather live poorly in a hut full of books than be a king and have no desire to read.